Right, well, let's welcome our first guest of the day. Arvind Sanger, Managing Partner at Geosphere Capital, is joining us. Arvind, good morning. Happy New Year to you. First day of the new year, first working day, that is. And hope you have a great one. How are you feeling about global markets? I mean, nothing's going to change overnight, and the mood has been slightly bearish in the US markets. It's been one of the worst years since 2008. You think fortunes are going to turn?
Well, for us, it was our best year by a factor of 3 in our global portfolio from any prior year. So it was a great year for us because we had big bets in our global portfolio in energy and coal and a few select metals. I think 2023 I doubt it'll match the year that we had, but for global investors who are looking at, or Indian investors who are looking at what's coming, I would say the biggest theme for us in 2023 is going to be the reopening of China. China is having a tsunami, not a wave of COVID right now. The faster it goes through, the quicker it'll come out on the other side, whether that's in February or it's in March or it's at the end of the first quarter. That's going to mean a very bullish outlook for commodities on which China is dominant. And therefore, I would say that if I were to pick my theme for 2023, the commodity markets would be particularly attractive going into 23, particularly the metal side and maybe even energy, because we're going to see the mother of all revenge travels coming out of China after having been locked in and shut in and not able to travel globally, or people from global not able to travel into China for the last 2.5, 3 years. So I think there's a lot of interesting things to look at, and they're global in nature.
Arvind, if you staying in America outperformed last year, you're one hell of an alpha manager. You are the guy to listen to. First of all, of course, Happy New Year. Arvind, how would you look at India? If your broad theme is that commodities are going to be expensive, India as a whole and the micros in India, what would you like the metal? Would you like the Tata Steels and the Hindalcos?
Well, I would say, you have a few metal stocks. You have the Hindalcos, you have, you have a few other metals names. You have a few energy. Unfortunately, you can't play in India, but on the metal side, you can play, some of the trading beneficiaries, some of the metals companies. And Vedanta is there, and you have you have a few steel companies. I would say that one of the biggest risks to India is going to be in the second half if metals and energy do get a benefit from China reopening. You could see some reemergence of inflationary forces in the Indian economy, but we feel good about the overall outlook. The growth outlook is decent, but India is not immune to the fact that the US could go into a recession in 2023. So we're going to be much more selective in how we look at the Indian market in 2023.
Hi, Arvind. Good morning. Arvind, India did well in 2022, but my broader question is, between developed markets and emerging markets, how would you position yourselves, given that the S&P was down close to 20% in the past year? But what's your take on that?
I think emerging markets could outperform in 23, and I think part of it is that Fed is trying to engineer a slowdown and a recession, and you could have the largest weight in emerging markets is China, and I think the Chinese government is going to be much more pro-business than it was in the last couple of years, trying to revive the economy. So that can help emerging markets. Particularly China-dependent ones, but also countries like India, which are not that export-dependent. It's not independent. It could still have a decent year from an earnings growth. US, on the other hand, I think first half at least looks like the recession headwinds could be overhanging it. But it's in long year. We don't know when or if the Fed will pivot and how things might turn out in the US and developed markets in the second half of 23. But I've been cautious for the last several months about the US market broadly. And I'm not changing my view, and therefore the overhang for emerging markets short term is going to be US Fed actions, but I think that's largely run its course. Now it's a US recession risk versus an emerging market growth opportunity. And I think China is going to lead the way out of the emerging market growth in 2023.
Okay, that's been a narrative actually for a while. In the last fortnight as well, we've had a lot of experts tell us that. But Arvind, leave us with some sectoral preferences, right? Because as we were just mentioning a while back, next Monday we kickstart earnings season with a bang, and you have all the IT numbers that will come through. IT has had one of the roughest years in 2022. Do you think this is a good time to be nibbling in at least after the 40% falls that the large cap IT stocks have seen?
I think it could get interesting here in the next couple of months, because I think the U.S. recession risk and the financial industry hit that it's taking, and that's, the IT sector is dependent on that. That is largely discounted. So if I take a 1 or 2 year view, I won't take a 1 or 2 month view, but on a 1 or 2 year view, I think the IT companies are well positioned for the continued digitization and the opportunity for outsourcing. So yes, I would say that over the next couple of months, that would be an area. But an area that we are, underweight in India would be the commodity sectors. That would be our number one weight. IT could be another. Financials, we're getting a little more selective on. They've had a great run. We'd be a little more selective on those. And then, some of the areas like real estate, niche sectors, we see some good opportunities in some of those kind of companies. And we have some selective industrial companies that we like.
The last one is interesting. I was wondering, would you bet on the India capex cycle turning? We have seen commercial vehicles doing well. Usually it's a precursor to construction activities picking up, the L&Ts and the other capex companies?
Yes, I think that the capex companies are going to go into a multi-year growth cycle. Again, it won't be a straight line, but I think 23 should continue to give us positive indications on the capex cycle in India.
Okay. Arvind Sanger, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and hope the year 2023 also sees you as an alpha fund manager beating the markets. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.